Welcome to Women in the Music Industry, the podcast that shines a spotlight on the remarkable women who are breaking barriers and making their mark in an industry that has long been dominated by men. I'm your host, Rob Wells, and I'm thrilled to have you join us on this empowering journey. Each episode of this podcast will be dedicated to exploring the inspiring stories, accomplishments, and struggles of the extraordinary women who have defied the odds and made waves in the music business. Together, we'll delve into the journeys of female artists, songwriters, producers, musicians, managers, executives, and all those who have helped play a pivotal role behind the scenes. We'll uncover the stories that deserve to be heard, as well as celebrate the triumphs, challenges, and unique perspectives that women bring to the music industry. Whether you're a fan of music, an aspiring artist, or simply curious about the inner workings of the music business, this podcast will offer a valuable perspective. Together, we'll celebrate the power of music and the strength of these inspiring women. So join us as we amplify their voices and together pave the way for a future where women in the music business are no longer the exception, but the rule. Today's podcast is sponsored by the Songwriter's Piano, an easy-to-use app for songwriters and lyricists to use when coming up with song ideas when there's no instrument around or nobody to play one. With the Songwriter's Piano, one can easily play commonly used pop songwriting chord sequences at the touch of a screen, in any key, in 3 different chord variations, all played on a gorgeously recorded grand piano. Download the Songwriter's Piano by Play Like Me apps today, found on both iOS and Android stores everywhere. Welcome back to another episode of Women in the Music Industry. I'm so happy that you decided to join us today because we are spending time with the one and only unstoppable and ever so awesome, my friend, Ebonnie Rowe. Ebonnie, hello.
Hello, Rob. Thanks for having me on the podcast. This is awesome.
Thank you for saying yes. I'm thrilled that you're here. This is going to be great. I'm going to read your bio now to everybody as they can listen into this. Ebonnie Rowe is the founder and executive director of PhemPhat Entertainment Group and the producer of the Honey Jam Concert and Emerging Artist Development Program for young female artists of all cultures and musical genres. Founded in 1995, they provide promotional, mentoring, networking, educational, and performance opportunities. Artists such as Nelly Furtado, Melanie Fiona, Jully Black, Savannah Re, Haviah Mighty, LUKALA, Jordan Alexander, Leila Dey, and many others performed early in their careers. Ebonnie has organized impactful experiences for these artists, such as songwriting camps, industry workshops, mentor cafes, tickets to major artist concerts, opportunities to attend the Polaris, Juno and Grammy Awards, and sessions to learn from major artists such as Jessie Reyez, Estelle, Fefe Dobson, Marsha Ambrosius, Melanie Fiona, LeToya Luckett, Elle Varner, Erykah Badu, Janelle Monae, and more. The program creates a welcoming, supportive sisterhood and a safe space for young women to be vulnerable, to learn, to build self-esteem and long-lasting relationships. Ebonnie has participated in or moderated panels for CMW, Collision, RPSM Talks, Indie Week, and more. Her work with Honey Jam has been profiled on CBC, E-Talk, Global TV, Canada AM, Much Music, ET Canada, Maclean's, The Toronto Star, National Post, Globe and Mail, and many other publications and media outlets. She has been featured in books such as Canada 150 Women, Conversations with Leaders, Champions, and Luminaries, and Put Your Dreams First, Handle Your Entertainment Business. Additionally, if that wasn't enough, she has received many awards, including the prestigious Roy Thompson Award of Recognition, CIMA's Trailblazer Award, and the YWCA Women of Distinction Award. Wow. Ebonnie, we are not worthy to have you here on this podcast. It's incredible. Your story is amazing, and I want to hear all about it. You're amazing. You are unstoppable. Every time that I meet you, you are just doing a million things, and you never ever stop, do you?
I've been often described as relentless.
Right.
That's kind of a pet name, an affectionate pet name people have for me. It's 28 years now, so you don't get to this milestone without really having a passion, a fire in your belly, and being unstoppable and relentless.
Hmm.
So that's me. I'll take it.
That's amazing. I want to know, how did all of this start? How did you get this fire within you? How did you get this relentless and unstoppable nature about you? Where did it all start from? Just take me back to the very beginning, if you will.
So I don't know if you're into astrology, but I am under the sign of Leo. And so for some people, that's all that need be said. We tend to have very strong personalities, be very bold, have a lot of passion um, into social justice, protecting and advocating for people. So I feel like that's just what I was born to do. My parents were amazing examples of giving back and brought us up to be involved in community and be caring and involved citizens. And then life circumstances and events that occurred that pushed me further. Um, Experiences with racism, experiences with people in my life who died suddenly, and having a sense of my own mortality and wanting to make sure that I had a purpose for being in the world. Um, and so that was very important to me, to have some sort of legacy and to have helped others in my journey. For Honey Jam specifically, that happened by accident. Um, I was running a mentor program for at-risk Black youth in the early 90s, and they were all listening to hip hop music, to gangster rap specifically. And my female mentees were telling me that their 5-year-old siblings, their little brothers, were calling them the B word and the H word. They didn't know what it meant, but they were hearing it on college radio, hip hop, and it was the wild, wild west. There didn't need to be any clean versions at that time, and the shows were in the middle of the day. So I approached the biggest hip hop DJ, which was DJ X. He had a 3-hour show, and I let him know that this is what was happening, an unintended consequence. And he said, "Oh, well, come on my show and talk about it." I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, I'll give you the 3-hour show. You produce it." What? So meanwhile, I am by day, a full-time legal assistant. I'm running this mentor program on the side, and I don't know anything about producing a radio show, but I am a disciple of Malcolm X. And one of the things that he spoke about is, when you see something wrong, instead of just pointing fingers at other people, look in the mirror, point the finger at yourself, and ask yourself, what are you doing to be a part of the solution? And if you aren't doing anything, shut up and sit down, and don't just be a backseat driver, a keyboard warrior, someone who just stands on the side, then you just lose all credibility. And I always remembered that. And so if you're given a platform, you need to figure it out. So I didn't really have the time. I didn't have the knowledge or the expertise, but I was being given a national platform to discuss this, something that I claimed was important to me. So figure it out. So I just found people who did know what they were doing, and we just all, came together and produced this radio show. Listening to the radio show were the editors of Mic Check magazine, which was like Canada's version of Vibe magazine. And the editor said, "Hey, we'd like you to edit an all-female issue of our magazine." What do I know about that? But okay, figure it out. The rap party for the magazine was called Honey Jam, right? And we had artists perform, female artists perform And that was supposed to be it. And then at the wrap party, everyone was like, when's the next one? When is the next one? I was like, what are you talking about? This isn't what I do. But then overnight, I thought, okay, there's clearly a need for this. There's nothing else like this. There's no other showcase platform for women. Maybe we'll just do one or two more and see how it goes. And that is how Honey Jam began.
Wow.
And that one or two and see how it goes turned into 28 years. And here we are.
28 years. And how many artists would you say have gone through? How many do you take in every year?
So in the early days, we would take in like 40. So this was before we did live instruments, right? People are using cassette tapes. If you can go back in time.
Yes. At least it was after 8-track. It was after 8-track.
Right.
Yes.
So yeah, it was insane. And also in the early days, we hadn't yet started or had any kind of sponsorship to do a lot of the developmental stuff that we did later. I was just paying for everything from my salary as a legal assistant. So it's all very innocent. We just kind of made it up as we went along. So it would definitely be hundreds over the 28 years. Now we take about between 15 to 20 per year.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of the never ending story. So once you are an alum of Honey Jam, we support you forever. And so you will always be able, once we have space, to participate in some of the things that we're doing. So
incredible. If you could, because I think that there's probably a lot of listeners right now who are wondering, what is Honey Jam? What exactly, like, if you could take me through what somebody would go through when they apply to be part of the Honey Jam to actually the final performance or everything that comes after it. Tell me everything that would include in the journey of somebody going through Honey Jam.
So first, let me give you my definition of what Honey Jam is. So it's a nonprofit, all-female artist development program. So what we're offering is educational, developmental opportunities, promotional opportunities, performance opportunities, and that is, for the most part, what it is. So the way that it works is that we hold auditions in Toronto, and then artists from across the country can submit an audition online. If you are at the live auditions, you have 60 seconds to perform. We have about 15 judges, and then we do a final selection. We choose between 15 to 20. It's multicultural, so we want to represent artists from different cultures, from different genres of music, and from different parts of the country. So once you are chosen, the process begins. So you're going to do vocal and performance coaching. We're going to connect you with our house band. So you start rehearsals and stuff to prepare for the show. And then we do different developmental initiatives, workshops, many different topics within the music industry, whether it's management, publishing, songwriting camps, mentor cafes, producer talks. We have been very committed over the last few years to promote artists learning how to produce themselves, at least in the initial stages, and understanding what's involved in that. We've brought in producers to talk. We've done hands-on learning of the software. We've had producer-specific mentor cafes where it's like, you'll get to meet them. They'll be sitting at tables. It's kind of like, musical chairs. You get to spend about 10 or 15 focused minutes, get advice, talk about your music, connect, and the artists love that. The artists and the mentors, they love that. We do the same thing for about 20 different areas of the music industry. So you can come in to this cafe and in a one-stop shop, meet someone who is a vocal coach, an entertainment lawyer, a manager, an A&R rep, a publisher, someone who works at a funding agency, so many different, a stylist, a video director, like as many different professions as we can find, publicists, and on and on. That is extremely popular.
So I'm curious, would you say that the majority of people that audition to be a part of Honey Jam, they come in as singers, as performers, as artists?
Yes.
When they leave the program, are they continuing on that journey, or do you find that from all of the different people that they've been introduced to along the way, that they realize, hey, there's a lot more to the music industry than just being a performer, than just being an artist? And have you ever had some people that go into entertainment law or promotion or directing videos or things like that?
That is a great question that no one has ever asked me.
All right.
So in the early days, there wasn't really a music industry. People were there wasn't a vibrant music industry. So the people that were doing Honey Jam were not thinking, I'm going to be a star. They were thinking, I'm going to have fun and perform on stage, and my friends are going to see me, and it's going to be cute. Everything changed after Nelly Furtado. So she was the first person to really go big. So we would go from having about 50 people come out to audition to 400.
Wow.
Basically overnight, because of the success of what happened with her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just like someone like a Drake, a Justin Bieber, a Jessie Reyez, their success makes people believe it could also happen for them. And so for young people, Nelly was that person that really broke out almost 30 years ago, that really inspired people and made everyone more serious, made people look at Honey Jam more seriously, because that's how a lot of people got to see her. So, so the people from the earlier days, from the 90s, many of them are not still doing music. It was something that they were doing as a hobby or for fun, and then they went on to do other things. One person, well, a couple people from the early 90s who are still very strong doing music. Nelly, of course, Jully Black, Melanie Fiona. Those are the names that pop out to me from those very early beginnings of Honey Jam. But most of the rest have gone on to other things. Artists that would have come to Honey Jam later on, many of them are still definitely doing music. Some of them are combining music with other things. So one of the alums, Jordan Alexander, she's one of the leads of the latest version of Gossip Girl. Mm-hmm. So she's been doing a lot of acting. Another one of our alums, Stella Maggie, she was a rapper called Stella B in the early 90s. And now she's a sought after feature film director in Hollywood that's been featured in Variety. She directed a film called The Photograph. And Clive Davis had tapped her to work on the Whitney Houston biopic. She wound up pulling out of that for creative differences, which worked out for her. And she's been doing some work with Disney, and we're so proud of her. I literally have whiplash following the successes of the alums. And I'm a proud mama bear. So if you go to our Instagram at the Honey Jam, you will see lots of posts and in our stories, just celebrating the amazing success of the artists.
So I'm curious. The people that come in, maybe some of them are not thinking that this is going to be my career. They're thinking that it's more just a fun experience, you know, to go through this. They must, though, have moments where they see you and they see your energy and they see your drive and determination and your force of nature that you are. And that must rub off on them. That must do something, I think, to see that, you know, there are certain traits that you need to have in order to really make it in this business. And you really need to be, you know, just continuously getting out there and pounding the pavement and making things happen and finding other ways. When you find that there's a block over here, that you find a way to get around that. And that must rub off, I think, on the participants.
So nowadays, they have to be serious. The amount of time, effort, and money that is going into the program, you know, and the sponsorship support that we get specifically for emerging artists, where this is what they want to do, you know, from talent development funds, right? So we don't tend to get people now who are doing it as a fun thing. It's much more serious now. So that's number one. Number two, just because people say that that is what they want to do, it doesn't mean that they understand what it's going to take out of them. And so they, you know, in this Insta world, they may be expecting that. And to be honest, every year I find that the artists might not understand the amount of work, or might expect a little more coddling. You know, this new generation, the level of expectation. Some people might use the word entitlement. Is a challenge. I'm very old school, so I'm not shifting from that, right? I have certain expectations. I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm trying to prepare you for the world. I want to see you represent yourself. I want to see you represent Honey Jam. So it's very much a parental type of thing, I find. And sometimes the artists aren't prepared for my frankness, right? So I always tell them, I'm really, really nice until I'm not, you know? So if you say to me, Ebonnie, I'd like one of your artists to come on my podcast. You've made your time, put aside the time, you've given the opportunity. I then let them know. And then they're late or they don't show up. Gloves are off. I find that insulting. It's insulting to you. It's insulting to me. And it's damaging to the Honey Jam brand. I want people to know that anytime they give one of our artists an opportunity, it's going to be appreciated. And that they're going to conduct themselves in a professional manner. But there's a generation that's, I feel, has never had a lot expected of them in terms of a strict code of conduct, you know? Like when you're going through school and everybody gets a medal, like whether you got 0% or 100%, just so everybody feels good. But that's not how the world works, right? it's a meritocracy and you have to earn things and there are standards. So I try to get that across as best I can. And like many parents will say, and I know from my own experience with my upbringing, you are upset at the time that you're being scolded or admonished, but then after you understand, right? And many, many times they've gone on to be involved in other productions or other programs. And they'll say to me, I say how it's going, and they'll say, it's not Honey Jam. They'll say, the show's next week and we don't have any idea what we're supposed to do. We don't know when sound check is going to be, like all of these different things. Whereas when they do Honey Jam, they're getting like a 5-page memo. This is what's happening with this. You have to be there then. This is this, blah, 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 blah. Right? And everything is outlined for them. And there's lots and lots of follow-up. So there's always information. And sometimes they're overloaded by it because they're not used to it. But then they get used to it and go and do other things, and they miss the level of discipline that we showed them. So that's heartwarming to me. And it's the real world. It's the real world. So I love it when they come back and say that to me. And yeah.
There's so much more to being an artist than just getting up on stage and singing. And whenever I meet with an artist and they say, you know, I ask them, what are your plans? And a lot of them say, well, I want to get up on stage and I want to sing for the people. And I just have to remind them, I have to sit down and give them a real reality check and just say that the amount of time that you will actually spend singing for the people will probably be about 2% of the entire time, if you're lucky. And the rest of that time, the 98% or the 99% of that time is running a company, is starting this brand, is doing so many more things that go into an artist career. And you're absolutely right. Like, there has to be discipline. There has to be a work ethic. There has to be this thing where you do what you say you're going to do, and you do it 10 times better than anybody thought you were going to do it. You know, and it's just, a lot of artists don't realize is that they think, well, I've been working really, really hard my whole life. Now, if I get this opportunity, my work will be less. And I'm always there to tell them, no, your work will be more. It just gets more and more work as time goes on. So I love that you give them that reality check. I love that you are stern with them, that, you know, you expect a certain way, a certain code of conduct, a certain, you know, change
I
in their
describe
personality.
a syndrome. I call it the I want to go to heaven, but I don't want to die syndrome.
Right.
You know, like you want the end result, but not what it takes to get there. At the same time, I'm very aware that there are artists for whom they are never going to be that on top of it person. And I refer back to the jazz musicians of the 50s who, a lot of them had patrons that would just pay for their lives so that they could stay in their bubble and just create these masterpieces, because they didn't have that part of their brain to do business and to look at contracts and to do all of those things. And so they had people around them that did coddle them. But if those people didn't, I don't think they would have gotten there on their own. And we would have missed out on so much culture, right? So I am definitely aware that there are amazing artists who need that, but they need to know what they need and then find the people around them that can support them so that we can still have the benefit of their artistry, right? And so at the same time I'm strict with them, I also say, like, because you cannot really, it's hard to become that person if you don't have those skills, right? Like, I don't have the skills to be an electrician. I don't understand it. And I can't be a basketball player. You know what I mean? So I don't want them to feel bad about themselves if they aren't that person. But then there's also people who are just lazy and just won't do it because they don't feel like it. So, like, I'm not that strict that I don't understand. There are different types of people. The same way that in school, there are people who learn differently. You know, some of them need something in writing. Some of them need to, have an audiobook instead, just because of the way that their brain works. So I think we have to all be cognizant of that and make allowances for that and be able to have those types of conversations and understand what the needs are of the artists so that we can advise them accordingly and assist them accordingly.
That's great. I love that. So it isn't just one format for all the artists. You
Right,
basically
right.
can see who they are and what they need. Yeah, that's a really good point that I've never really thought about before. It's, when I tell these artists that I say 99% of it is running a company, but not everybody is made to run a company. So it's either the artist does it or they put up their hand and say, here's the areas where I'm not that strong in. Here's the areas that I don't really have a knowledge base in. Do you have a team around you then? Can you form, different people that can help you out in different things so that you can get your electrical work done, that you can, learn basketball from a professional and get your skills up and things like that. Oh, that's good. Has it ever happened? You don't need to answer this if you don't want to, but has it ever happened that someone's come in and it's just been an impossible situation and you have to ask them to leave Honey Jam?
There is no one who I've had to ask to leave Honey Jam, but I have had to enact disciplinary measures, not like go stand in a corner or, anything harsh, but if you don't follow certain protocols or you show up late or you say that you're going to attend something and you don't let me know, right? Then if I get an opportunity to take an artist to the Grammys, guess what? I'm not going to think of you first or second or third, right? And so the consequences will come in that way. Like you'll just have to forfeit the opportunity to receive certain opportunities to attend things and to learn. And I will have that conversation with them as well, because I'll put out there, hey, we're doing this, anyone interested? And they'll put their name forward and I'll send them a private message and say, the last 3 times that you said this, then this happened, you didn't let me know. And so I really want to give the opportunity to someone else. And, when you feel like you can 100% commit and that we can count on your word, then I'm happy to give you that opportunity again. I'll share with you another story. I told the artists for Honey Jam ages ago, don't go home after sound check. There's all this construction happening in the city. There's going to be challenges. Stay in the area. I told them this long in advance so they could make the arrangements. So then it's the night of Honey Jam, and the host is getting ready to call up an artist, and nobody can find them. And then they showed up like an hour later, and I was like, because they went home and they didn't come back in time. And so then you employ the you snooze, you lose method.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the very end, I might have let them, this was in the 90s, so I think at the very end, I might have let them come on at the very end for the freestyle part. But they were just so shocked because they never had that experience before where there was a consequence. It's like, well, I'm here. And so what, the C's should part now? Have some consideration for other people and everybody else who showed up on time.
It is amazing how you can really quickly see those who really want it and those who don't. And you want to give the opportunities to those who really want it, who really work hard and are there for a reason. I get asked all the
Mm-hmm.
time, tell me some juicy stories about the people that you've worked with, tell me something about Justin Bieber that's like scandalous or whatever. And I don't have any stories like that because literally almost everyone that I've worked with that's at a certain level really deserves to be there. Like they're really hard workers. They love what they do. They would do it for free. Like it's what they wake up and think about. It's what they go through the day thinking about. They go to bed thinking about this. And they work hard. They work their butts off and they're constantly doing one thing or another or trying to develop this or develop that. And that's yeah. You can really tell just really quickly those who do want it and those who don't. And those that really do want it, they end up getting things happening and they end up going to the Grammys with you or Polaris Prize Awards or the Junos or
They have longevity
yeah.
in their careers.
Mm-hmm. What happens at the end of Honey Jam? Is there a winner that's selected or do you select a few winners or is there even a winner or is it just a celebration of performance and women getting on stage?
Okay. So there is no end. Honey Jam is the never ending story and the forever sisterhood. Um, Two, it's not a competition, it's a showcase, it's a program. And so everyone who performs is a winner for being selected and becoming part of what we call the Honey Jam fam. And so at the end of their season, of their specific cohort, um, we have the concert, and then things continue. So each year, our main focus is the new cohort, right? We have the auditions traditionally in June, but then there's 6 months before June. And so things don't stop. We are continually invited to participate in so many different things through community partnerships that we have. And so there's never a shortage of artists who can benefit. So this year, Melanie Fiona was celebrating the 10th anniversary of her debut album, The MF Life. And she was doing something with Amazon Music called Amazon Originals. And this was going to be a recording and a video and a talk. And it was a song called Love. And she reached out and said that she'd like to have the Honey Jam artists be the choir for the recording of the song and
Wow.
sing the John Legend part of the song. So I'm not going to say, well, thanks, but no, our cohort doesn't start till the summer. So of course we're going to participate in that, and that was just a phenomenal experience, right? When I took an artist to the Grammys, that was in January one year. There's so many different things that happen, opportunities to attend Canadian Music Week, et cetera, et cetera. So it's never ending. Um, and we're always promoting what they do. We follow them, we support them when they're releasing music. They invite us. Sometimes we offer, assistance. And so, yeah, and the artists form bonds with each other, and I'll see them co-writing, or if someone is opening for the other, or someone is playing keyboards for the other one, and it just warms my heart. I saw Haviah Mighty and Jordan Alexander were collaborating, where Haviah is producing music for Jordan. How perfect is that?
You're creating a huge network, but it's more like family. And
Yes, it is the Honey Jam fam.
the Honey Jam fam, that's it. And I feel crazy love from you when I hear you talking about this entire program. And just it's interesting, when people are asked, well, you have so many children, how can you love them all? It's not that you divide your love, it's that your love multiplies, that it just
Yes.
keeps getting more and more and more, and that there's just more to give. And just it's I love that you're giving opportunities to these women. I love that you are showing them the way, showing them all different possible roads that they can go down, giving them so many opportunities, giving them life lessons, a little bit of discipline along the way is always a good thing as well. I love that. It just seems like a great, fantastic program. Please tell me that you're not still doing legal work on the side now. You're
Oh gosh, no. No. And I also have to say it's a village, we have so much support from different organizations in the music industry, from community partners like TIFF, Music Publishers Canada, the Women in the Studio program. We get invited to things that Remix does, Girl Connected, Rise. It's a very much an extended family. Vivian Barclay, who is part of our team, she has been instrumental in doing some great things through Warner Chappell. We went to visit one of her writers in Nashville, and she came with us. We went to New York. We got to visit the Warner office. And so we have benefited from the kindness and generosity and support from so many people, from funders and from people in the industry.
That's great. That's great. Do you find that every year you're getting more and more support as word gets out and just more people find out about Honey Jam? Do you find that it's getting easier to find that support?
I find that when diversity and inclusion became more topical, that my calls and outreach were returned faster than before.
Interesting.
That is my diplomatic way of expressing that.
Yeah.
And so I definitely noticed a difference. And that continues. I think people are understanding what privilege means and what exclusion means, and that each of us has a responsibility as humans to try to create more of a level playing field. And each of us is also privileged. So while I might be seen as a minority, I feel very privileged still. And there are many people whom I can extend a hand to give them opportunities that they would not have had, likely, if I wasn't able to do that. So I'm very aware of my own responsibility, and I don't have any challenges in checking people who I feel could do more, or in creating opportunities for my artists by making people aware of our existence and, letting them know the different ways that they can positively impact what we're doing, and that it would be a good thing. I am not shy. And so, I create my seat at the table. I believe I belong wherever I want to be, and we should all have an all access pass and not have to ask permission, right? To be a meritocracy. I'm qualified. I'll see different events and I'll see, only certain people being invited, and I'll contact them and say, these are the things that we do, and I'd love to attend your next event. And you just keep saying that, and you make your way, you create your lane, and I'm relentless about it. So I am that mother bear, because these aren't opportunities for me. These are things that I'm trying to fight for the artists. you know?
Hmm.
Um, and so I love doing that. I love shattering stereotypes. I remember one year we did a performance at the Toronto Life Garden Party in the bridal path. And that never would have happened if we did not agitate for it to happen and for them to consider us. Like I'm not looking for any kind of handout, but I do believe that we have the amazing talent and amazing artists, and we deserve to be considered. And so um, once they actually see and hear the talent, they're kind of blown away. And because they kind of made up their mind beforehand that, oh, maybe it's not going to be up to par. And then it's like, oh my God. So, so I love that.
I used to run these songwriters nights in Mississauga. I was raising money for some schools for some arts programs, and the majority of the crowd that came out to see this, I would say the majority was Caucasian, and they were all over the age of 50, majority. And I remember bringing Michie Me into this one of these songwriters nights, and just so curious to see what the reaction would be to Michie. She's great. I love her as an artist. I love her songs. I love
Yeah.
her music and everything. But it was just, I was curious to see the reaction of the crowd coming in, and it was exactly what they all needed. They all became massive Michie Me fans afterwards.
Hmm.
Most of them had never listened to rap ever before. They had kind of like shut it out of their lives, thinking that rap is only this one thing and it's not for them. And the
Yeah.
minute that they heard Michie speak and talk about her story and her life, and just then hear the songs that are written about these things that she's gone through, and it's just like she had them eating out of the palm of her hand. Like, just it was incredible to see. You going to that party at the bridal path was probably exactly what that bridal path needed, just to
Yes.
inject that spice, that flavor, that just just that they didn't realize that they needed that in their lives. And they're so much better for it, for having you be there and bring your artist
Yeah.
there.
It makes the world a better place. You were mentioning in my bio about receiving the SEMA Trailblazer Award. And when I gave my acceptance speech, I talked about how, there's a lot of talk about diversifying uh, and having racial equity in boardrooms, right? So that different voices are included in decisions. And I said, but how many of you are diversifying who's at your dinner table, you know? And just think about that. How many times when you have the family barbecue or picnic or whatever, and including myself, like everyone of every race, how many times are you inviting in other people so that we can all get to know each other better on a social level? So no one is seen as other, and we are just more humanized, uh, getting more familiar with each other, with our cultures, with our food, with our music, um, and just creating a better world. Um, and I think we move closer to that. Sometimes when you watch the news, it feels like some areas are 10 steps backward, and where that populism comes in and division and people find their tribes and whatnot. But I think that this new generation, is not having that, and that they're going to help for that to happen. There are things that they aren't going to stand for, and that from birth they've been raised among different types of people, and they're much more accepting. So I'm definitely hopeful.
I am too. I grew up in Peterborough, Canada, where there was one family that ran the Chinese restaurant out of like 60,000 people. You know, there was one Black family that was in, there was one Indian family. This is how I grew up. I now live in Pickering and everybody is here. There's a massive Caribbean population. There's a massive Middle Eastern population. There's a massive East Indian population. There's literally people from all over the world here. All of my neighbors are from all over the planet, and I love it so much. I love the fact that my kids are going to a school where everybody is there and everybody's put together and celebrating their differences as well. That every month that there's, you know, we honor Black History Month, we honor Islamic Month, we honor all these different things. We put a lot of attention onto all this. So it's not like we're forcing everyone to become one. We're celebrating all of our differences and realizing that, like this guy that I was telling you about, Drew Binsky, that we all have the same wants and desires, and we can all get together and hang out and have a great time, and musically, spiritually, community, all of that. It's great. I love that though. Who are you bringing to your dinner table? It's so true. It's so true. And I do see that changing with the new generation. Who are you bringing to the dinner table?
I actually had a couple people reach out to me after that speech and say, you know, can we do lunch? Like, I realized that I don't really know you and I'd like to get to know you.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought that was a beautiful thing.
It's a very beautiful thing. May that continue. May that multiply. Light the torch, light that torch. That's what you are doing. You are a torch lighter in so many different people and showing them a different way of thinking and believing and living. And that's a beautiful thing. I feel like you've kind of already done this throughout our talk, but maybe if you could just point just in another way, the next generation. I'm always wanting to give something to the next generation in these podcasts. And there's so many different avenues, so many different positions that people could have in the music industry, so many different things that they can do, many of which you have mentioned that you bring in as specialists to the Honey Jam program. What advice would you give to anybody who is thinking about getting into the music industry?
One thing I say to everyone in arts and culture, and specifically music, don't do it unless you can't not do it, right? There's going to be so many no's and so many challenges. There is no job security, you know, like, and I preface it and I say, you know, I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but this is like a preparatory, cautionary, reality check. There's so many people that want to do what it is that you are doing. There are so many talented people. What level of success are you looking for? And what are you prepared to do? But don't do it unless you can't not do it. You have to have the fire in your belly and the passion to do it. And, you know, you'll hear people say that I love this so much, I do it for free. You have to feel that way. You know, not that that's your aspiration to not be paid, but you have to love it that much. You have to love it that much. And then once you make that decision, take the steps that are necessary to get there. And support is so key, right? To have people to shore up your confidence when you do get the no's. And when you get the no's, don't think, oh, well, I guess I'll just go be an accountant, right? Maybe ask the person who said no, why? And don't be down about it and just say, well, how can I improve, right? You take it as an opportunity to begin again. I think we call it failing forward. It's part of the process. And so you have to be very clear about it. So much of it is mental, having that mental fitness, having that fortitude. You know, there are a million talented people. If you're going to rise, you've got to have all of the other stuff, right? And I think people will tell you that in a lot of different professions, but that's definitely something that I say to them. And know who you are. Know who you are, what you stand for, what you will or won't do. Just have some clarity. Have some clarity in what you want. A good set of support people.
That's a fantastic answer. I love everything that you just said in there, and I believe it. I really do. It really feels like it's so from the heart with you. And I just feel your passion for everything that you do. And I'm so happy that you came on this podcast, because you have inspired me to rethink certain things in my life. And just, I wanted, I don't know if you'll have me in the Honey Jam, but I would love to donate some of my time to help out the whole program.
That would be awesome, Rob. And thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It was a really deep discussion. I really enjoyed it. You asked me things that no one ever has, and it just felt really comfortable and easy.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Just really just an easy sort of like fireside chat where we just get to hang out.
Yes.
I get to know you a little bit
Without
better.
the fire.
Without the fire. That's right. That's right. We're going to need that soon as the weather's getting colder. But Ebonnie, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate your time and your information and your wealth of knowledge and everything that you shared with us today. It's great. I think that you have probably inspired many people out there listening to this. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Okay. We will talk to you soon. Stay tuned for the next episode of Women in the Music Industry, coming soon. Let's embark on this incredible journey together, celebrating the women who are reshaping the music business one note at a time. If you enjoyed hearing this podcast, please take a moment and give it a like, a rating, or a follow. Your support helps immensely. We'll see you next time.